Oh, let's see here. Let's see how the new setup works, because my son's actually home to help me. And I don't know that I have my chat window up though, so even if y'all are there, I'm not sure I can see you. Let's see if I can get that set up. But oh, there it is. Chat. Huh. One of these years, we will start these things off without a hitch. Today is not that day. Johan, do you mind checking and making sure I'm actually live on Facebook? Oh, bad echo. That's not good. Johan is tech supporting me, and Johan, I'm wondering if we're picking up audio through the webcam as well. Okay, let's try that for possibly eliminating the echo. You want to come wave hi to your grandma? She says hi. He's still testing, so he's got me set up. I see another comment that's not just grandma. So. Still have an echo. Okay. Well, the problem is that we are testing this live instead of having tested it beforehand, because I'm using something called OBS, and it's a software, so I don't know how to test in this. Yeah. Johan's trying to fix it. We may have to deep six the extra webcam and just go back to the laptop cam.
No, it's not the extra webcam. That's off. There's no audio coming through that.
Then maybe this is too close to something, because I've had issues with that before. We'll try that. And I have had feedback issues with this microphone, and it's in the wrong place before. Anyhow, as I was saying, we are testing this on the fly, and speaking of flies, you may see the cat active behind me, because she's currently chasing a little wasp that is in the house. No change. Okay, so. Johan is sitting here next to me, trying to... Yes, we do have a separate webcam and computer setup. Is that what it is, Mark? The cats can provide entertainment, though.
The webcam's audio is completely shut off, and even if I turn it on...
Let's just get rid of the webcam and switch back over to the...
No. It's the microphone. The microphone's causing an issue.
Well, honey, I can't get rid of the microphone. The sound card on the laptop does not work well. Yes, the cat is chasing a wasp.
I'll be back in a minute.
And a spicy sky jalapeno at that. I don't know, we keep getting these little black wasps. I don't know if they're a Texas thing or if it's just where... turn the computer microphone off. That is a good question. I can't see, that's what I have. The sound card in this laptop is bad, so I have to have a decent microphone. Yeah, I was afraid of that. Alright. I know Johan didn't want me to do this, but give me a second, I'm going to go away. That's not going to work. He's got all kinds of stuff set up here. And I'm honestly not sure at this point what's going to happen if I undock things. Ben, I'm sorry about the reverb. Oh. Like I said, and I've said this in a few of these, which is if we ever get all of the technical stuff worked out, it's going to be amazing. But I am not sure I'm ever going to get all the technical stuff worked out. Oh, honey, just can I unplug this? Will it switch over? Not that. Mute the boom microphone. Okay, we can try doing that.
You just hit the mute button.
This?
Yeah, that should
okay.
be it.
That mutes it.
Okay,
can you still hear me? We have muted the,
It's still pulling audio from somewhere.
Okay, so it's pulling audio from somewhere, but as long as we don't get weird squealy things, Johan, don't touch anything.
I'll turn that off. Let me just turn off those, turn this one back on, see if that helps.
Okay, now I guess we're still audio testing with all of y'all. And the cat is still trying to catch her spicy sky jalapeno back there.
Oh, that doesn't work, so I'm just going to turn that off, and I don't know where the other set of audio is coming from.
Okay, are you still testing? There you go. Okay.
I don't know why it works, but it works.
We are not absolutely sure what sound device is picking me up right now, and I'm going to try and look at the camera because
I don't know what it's playing out of.
Yeah, Johan is not sure what's going on.
Everything is muted on OBS.
So
no audio should be playing.
Okay, good. Volume is on your end. We're good. Let's see here. One of these days, we will figure this all out, and then it will be magical. And it's nice to see everybody this evening. I am cold and tired. I am done with winter. I realize that this is a Texas winter, and in my life I have had much worse winters. Don't get me wrong, I really appreciate that my sister has been sending me pictures of Vermont, which is where she's been working the last few days. And I really appreciate that this winter is not that winter. However, I am ready to be done with winter. And like, I had wanted to do something tomorrow, and it looks like I can't do the thing tomorrow because we may get freezing rain in my area. So if we go someplace and we don't come home until after dark, it won't be safe, which means that something I was looking forward to is probably not going to happen, which I'm kind of bummed about. But that gets me segued into my first topic of the evening. I am not moving to Panama, Doug. That segues me into the first topic of my evening, which is... Good heavens, Johan, what are you doing? Which is... You are not helping, young man. It's fine, it's fine.
It looks like there's Vaseline over your face.
Oh, my tech support is perfectionist tech support. Must be just so. And Johan, no, okay, that's not Johan, that's the dog. Now the dog's in on the action. This is a family affair. Except for the fact that Sanford isn't home yet, so we're missing people. I am trying to be patient, and there's so many reasons not to be patient right now. And I'm just being patient. The chair is right up against the table where the flowers are, so every time I move right now, it's joggling the flowers. So, and now you get a really good view of my bookshelves at this point when Johan moved the and there's the cat again. Patience is not one of my virtues. I actually had a conversation with a colleague today about this. We were discussing the OCD that makes him tick, he's an accountant, and an analytical chemist such as myself tick. And what makes us good at our jobs is if you can harness that ability to be hyper-focused and completely in the moment. Don't touch it again.
Touch the
Jeez
camera.
Louise, child. I have enough ADD as it is without you. Now, dude, just no.
The way I can't see anything.
Oh, don't die. Don't die, kid. Don't die. He's coughing. He's had a head cold and that
No
is passing.
flu. It's been the flu. Oh wait, wrong direction. There we go. Just how we had it.
There's the dog's tail.
Open.
Johan, you're gonna make people motion sick. Stop. That's fine. That's fine.
No, it's not. There.
Seriously, dude.
It's there. Jeez. You're the one who makes me work with cheap equipment.
In other news, my boss is still planning on keeping the business running and has making motions in that direction. And I have had a couple of good interviews. And James, yes, see, same thing I just told him. He actually left the room, so hopefully there will be no more moving of the camera. And I will smack him if he comes within range again. And the cat is still hunting. I don't know if she's been catching it and releasing it on purpose. She's too short and fat to get up into the window, so. Oh. This week was interesting because I had an interview on Wednesday morning for a job that I would really, really like to get. I didn't hear anything today about it, so I'm hoping to hear something back early next week, one way or the other. And it's working in an ecosystem I've worked with before, and it's 100% remote work from home, so there are things that would make that advantageous for us. And yeah, well, we'll see. I don't know how quickly that I'm going to be able to get an answer from that one way or the other. And I'm very grateful for the fact that my boss has decided that even though she told me I was done at the end of February, when I asked her whether that meant today or Monday, because today made more sense if I was going to be done at the end of February, and she's like, what? No, I forgot I told you that. Please stay on. Hello. And so I am still gainfully employed and will be gainfully employed for the duration, I believe, unless something really strange happens, which is good because also Wednesday, not Wednesday, Thursday, when I was stuck at home because of weather and working from home, now you see why I call her Miss Fluffy Pants. When I was stuck at home on Thursday, working from home was not keeping me occupied because I was supposed to get a big project on Thursday from one of my colleagues, and that didn't happen. Yes, my General So's is very rare, and and cheeky. As long as she doesn't start chewing on my orchids again, I'm fine. No, what I was going to say is that Sanford and I have put in a mortgage loan app. We don't have a house in mind yet. What we need to do is get a pre-approval letter so that when the right house does come on the market, because there was a house that came up and we missed it because we weren't ready, and that we really, really liked. But once a house comes on the market that fits the bill, and I did put up on my blog my wish list, so if any of y'all are curious, that's there.
I'm still living in public. All of this is living in public. But my thing is that I'm not patient. I want to get things done. Now in this case, I actually have reasons to go ahead and get the next house, which is that the rent is going to keep going up. We can't afford to rent a house in the city, and renting here, even here at the apartment, we haven't been notified of it yet, but I would be willing to bet that know what Ian? I would be willing to bet that when our lease is up here at the apartment, they're going to raise the rent on us, and we can afford what we're paying, and we can afford a little bit more, but we're going to get to the point where it's going to be untenable, which for us means that what we're doing right now is we are looking to buy a house in a low cost of living area. Then, depending on what not patient, right, no, like you haven't noticed that once I start doing something, I do it. I recall the astonished look on a certain gentleman's face that I had done a turn and burn when we were moving. Yes, and ownership will be cheaper than rent, especially in the price range that we're looking at. We are not looking for a perfectly remodeled, perfect house. We are looking for a house that is probably going to need some updates. Since we're doing a VA loan, it won't be a problematic house, although we have certainly seen some of those on the market. And we aren't trying to move quickly on this. We're in this apartment until June. Now, mind you, I'd like to have the house a little bit before we're done here so that we do have time to do some any needed work on the house, paint, stripping out the carpets, before we're done here in the apartment for best comfort. So this is also why, if the remote technical writing position makes me an offer, I will be jumping on it with both feet, because that allows us to be wholly in a place that has a much lower cost of living than the city. The alternate plan is that if I stay in the position that I'm in, I'll be renting an inexpensive room and staying in the city probably 4 days a week and working from home 1 or 2 days a week, and commuting back and forth between home and a crash pad, which is less than ideal in some ways. However, I have had friends down here in the city offer to rent me a room, so it wouldn't be as bad as it could be. And it's a temporary thing. Once I have the experience under my belt that I can take elsewhere, then I can do that as well. I really like my current job. I love some aspects of it. Some aspects of it drive me crazy, but that's pretty much any job. Mark, yes, I have more experience rehabbing than Sanford does, actually. But my son has expressed great desire to learn, and
100 hours worth of YouTube.
He's watched a lot of YouTube videos, but we also have a lot of books, and he's got some other resources he can pull on, and he would like to learn, and I don't mind him practicing, although not electricity. He's not allowed to practice on electricity.
But that's what I want to do.
No, you're not allowed to practice on electricity. So, in aid of the whole transition to, right, no, I know that, Ian, and that's a big factor in the houses that I'm looking at, is that we can't have a house that requires too much work. But in aid of the transition to remote work and potential earnings in addition, Mark says you should be able to work with electricity, just don't work hot.
Yeah.
He says, well, yeah.
I'm not an idiot.
Hi, Koala. You missed all of the technical difficulties, so you're just on time.
How do we put this together?
My son is over here trying to crack an external hard drive that died a few years back. I think he's hoping to pull the drive and try to
I have a
recover
drive cloner.
family photos that are on it. Honey, that's a Western Digital drive that's proprietary, so the odds are that you won't be able to run the drive. Ooh, yeah, no, hot work sounds very unfun, Mark. Yeah.
You know these guys do hot work on like the really big power lines that they climb all the way up there? Yeah, that's not fun.
No, I would imagine that's not fun. I mean, you get to be way high and working with dangerous stuff. No. One of the things that I did yesterday was I finally managed to kick loose some progress on the short story, which I may or may not owe somebody who's in the chat. I am trying desperately to get this story done before the deadline of March 4th. So this weekend, if I can't go do the fun thing I want to do, then I will be head down in the story. But shaking the plot loose is something that I have mixed success with. There's times that I can do something simple, like last night I went and got in the shower and was in the shower for a while, and what I was doing was deliberately mentally pulling what I had already of the story through my head and then trying to figure out, okay, what comes next. And that, while I was in the shower and I didn't have any distractions, I don't know what it is about the shower, but it works nicely for this kind of thing. While I was in the shower, the next section of the story came to me. I still don't know what the ending is, and it's supposed to be a short story, so I'm really not wanting to let it take off and become a novel, because a lot of my short stories want to do that. So, Joshua, I am looking forward to reading your absolute dreck, because I don't think it's going to be dreck. Mark, yes, those are pretty much all of my lists, although to be honest, I hadn't thought about the 100 amp service, but that, I'll have to look into that. Sanford will know. I like older houses. Sanford likes newer houses, and this is one of the big incompatibilities in our married life, and we manage to make it work usually. We had, when we were house hunting in Ohio, we had actually put in an offer on a house that dated back to 1898, and it was a gorgeous house. Unfortunately, once the inspector got a hold of it, and we realized that it had termite damage, it had a leak in the foundation, and it had a bunch of other crap. So we backed out of that offer based on the inspection being crap. So I'm trying to avoid that, because there is a Craftsman bungalow on my list of houses I like in the destination we'd like to be in, and it is a beautiful house. It has great bones. It's still got a lot of the original flooring. Unfortunately, with a house built in 1928, there are things that you just don't have that you would have in a house that was built in more modern era.
1919.
Oh no. So Johan has been involved in helping with house hunting and sent me today to look at a house, the oldest house on our list, and it was built in 1919, and it's cheap. It's not livable.
It has hardwood floors though.
It does have, well, we don't know if it has hardwood floors. It says it has hardwood floors, but there are 2 photos in the listing. One of the front of the house and one of the back of the house.
And one of them gets worse after the other.
Mark, that's actually one of the other criteria that we're looking at, is we want a single-story house, ideally. An absolute minimum has to have the master bedroom and a bath on the main floor because Sanford's knees are not getting any better with age, and we would prefer to have a single-story house where we didn't have to deal with stairs at all. So that's been one of our criteria, is that we're looking for Joshua, given the house that Sanford and I lived in for the first few years we were together, yes, this is true. If your standards are low enough, anything is livable.
Remember the greenhouse? I don't know what else to call it.
The greenhouse?
The one back in New Hampshire, the first one.
Oh, the farmhouse?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one can also be set by that standard.
Yes. So the farmhouse that we lived in New Hampshire also had massive issues. That's a story for a different time. And I've definitely lived in some houses that, yes, Mom, I don't want to live in a house like the one that you and Jennifer are living in right now. I mean, I could because I could fix a lot of the issues, but it would take me a lot of time, and with me being the primary breadwinner, I don't have the time. So either Sanford and Johan wind up doing it, which might not actually be a bad male bonding experience, but
no.
Yeah, Johan is over here going no.
No chance. Tell them about the cave.
The cave?
The cave.
Which cave?
We were looking for a place to live when we were first coming down here. The cave.
So when we were first looking for a place to live, this was actually when I was first doing the big job search that landed us here in Texas. One of the houses, I don't even remember, I think it might have been a Zillow Gone Wild thing, but it was actually a literal cave in Missouri, and the guys were kind of going crazy over it, but that's neither here nor there. We're not living in Missouri.
9 acres.
Yes.
And it was only like 100.
It was like 164,000, but anyhow, I'm trying to go for simple, and so yes, basements are in short supply for houses here in Texas, and in fact I've only seen I think one in all of the looking I've been doing, and this includes, I was looking quite a bit down here in the city, trying to figure out pricing and if we could afford to buy down here in the city, which the answer to that is no. But the area that we're looking kind of for a place with a storm cellar, because it will be a good thing to have. Mom, I've actually seen a couple of places that were a group of cottages. In fact, one of the houses I was looking at today that popped up had 2 houses on the same plot of land. So older houses have basements. That's interesting. I haven't seen that necessarily, but then again, I am looking in the low end of price range. So when we did the mortgage application, we asked for a certain amount, and we're actually looking at less than that. So we're looking at probably 150,000 or less for the house. I haven't seen anything earlier than 1919 yet. That was the one house that we saw that was in 1919 is in deplorable condition. We couldn't get a loan on it, although to be honest, it's cheap enough. We could probably do that one with a personal loan. But, oh my gosh, no.
Without a basement, I can't really do what I want to do very effectively.
What do you want to do in a basement?
I really want to run Ethernet cables, and I actually have Ethernet lines.
He wants to run Ethernet cables throughout whatever house we do buy.
And I want to have an actual server-mounted router and what's it called? Switch. Like I want to have the whole shebang, the whole system in the basement, but it's really hard to run cables in the walls in a pre-built house,
Well, I suppose we could hold out for a house with a basement.
We could, but it's not a priority.
Mm-hmm.
We can always just run it through the air ducts.
I mean, a basement serves as a storm cellar, and that was one of the things that we had on our list of would be nice. When you start making the lists of what would be nice in a house, it starts to get complicated. I mean, because like our top line is no HOA. We don't want to have to deal with an HOA, which actually seems to be doable within the range that we're looking at. So it's one of those things that we'll see what happens, because it's always possible that we'll get turned down for a mortgage loan. And if that happens, then we have to make the renting work for a while. I think that'll get interesting if we have to do that. I would like to have a root cellar. That would be very nice. I wouldn't mind being able to have a decent garden and have chickens and koala. Those are all priorities, yes. I no longer want to have an outside toilet. I have lived with an outhouse. I don't want to do that again.
So, if we live near a lake, remember that lake house we found, Mama?
The built-in cooling is one of those things that, as I've been looking for houses, it's been trying to figure out if we need to have central AC or if we can get away with window units, because some of the older houses don't have central HVAC systems. And I had a long conversation with a friend earlier this week about ductless air conditioning and installing that kind of system, which can be done, but we'd probably be looking, depending on the size of the house, at anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000. Yeah, no, a cellar is definitely a good thing to look for then, but it's going to depend on, if she doesn't want to be up there, don't force her.
I'm not forcing her, I was letting her get a feeding.
And chickens, yes, well, I'm not terribly keen on chickens myself because they're foul, and foul are foul, but they're cleaner than ducks.
Chickens are cleaner than dogs.
Ducks. Cleaner than ducks. Ducks are a big mess.
I was about to say dogs.
Josh built a gun range which involved a lot of digging, so Koala, I'm sure he's up for a root cellar. Yes, actually that's part of the reason I really like the Craftsman bungalow I've been looking at. I mean, the downside is it's right in town, but the upside is it has a beautiful wraparound porch, which would be super nice. Okay, the cat is chewing on the spider plant, which may not be good for her. Could you please remove her from the back of my chair?
She stopped chewing on it.
Okay. It's going to be interesting. We would like to be outside of town, but we may not be able to get that. And one of the ideas that I've had would be to buy the house and then sometime not too distant future buy 10 acres of land, because then we'd be able to use the land for hunting and buy that somewhere remote, wherever it's cheap.
Yeah, but why would we go hunting?
Hog, deer, turkeys, because sometimes I like wild game meat. I grew up with it and I miss it.
I mean, I guess, but why spend the time maintaining all that land when it would cost?
Ian, I think anyone that lives in an old house has that feeling. I certainly know that was the way we felt about the little house that we had in Ohio. There were some things that had been done to that place. Well, even the nice house that we bought in Ohio had things that had been done to it. And yes, Johan does need to go hunting. Johan has a little .22 rifle he needs to learn how to use. That's why I was so excited when that house came up that had the land that we could hunt on and that had its own range, so we could teach the kid how to shoot, because he needs to learn how to shoot.
They made a Portal game for the Steam Deck, specifically for the Steam Deck.
He is excited because he has a
video game console
that he wants.
It's not the next gen video game console. It is literally the next step in the
ground
video
circuit
games.
has 60 volts running through it. I don't know what that means, but I'm going to assume that Mark and other people do. Oh, good. Well, Peter thought that would be a good thing for you, Mom. I described to him what you wanted it for, and he went out and found that and told me that he thought that would be a good fit for you. Did you talk to him? I could put you two in touch so that you could talk to one another, because he can explain that better than I can. And Peter has also taught people with disabilities how to handle firearms in ways that are better for them, and that might be something that the two of you want to have a conversation about as well, because it might help you if you're able to practice and it doesn't hurt you. Ooh, Ian, that really doesn't sound good, and that's even with me not knowing much about electricity. You should not have to throw 2 breakers to turn off a circuit. That sounds wrong. That really sounds very wrong. I'm trying to figure out how that even works. Of course they're not marked. The rule is that the circuits that you actually need are never the marked circuits. So,
I would say this apartment has.
no, I agree
marked.
with you, Joshua. Everyone does have to take and make a meal from scratch, and I mean scratch. And I didn't have the kids get involved in butchering when we lived on the farm. I didn't keep them away from it, but I didn't force them to be involved in it because they didn't need to be. When I started getting involved in butchering, it was because I needed to be. Hello, honey. Welcome home. I'm on live stream.
Bring any presents?
He brought lots of presents for the dog. Oh no, there's going to be squeaking. The dog just got a new toy.
I feel sad.
He just walked in with bags full of treats for the dog, and now the teenager is pouting.
I'm ordering pizza. What do you want, Sanford?
Oh, the house in Ohio that we had,
What do you want?
we had an issue with the circuits popping, and come to find out that what they had done was ran 2 things to each circuit, so everything was doubled up.
Wings.
And what we had to do was we had an
split.
electrician come in. We bought a bigger panel, put in more circuits so that there was only 1 per each breaker, and that solved the issue. Nice guy, really great guy, came in, quoted us one thing which we were prepared to pay, and then delivered the project considerably under the estimate, which was very nice. Jackrabbit would be edible, and as far as gross goes, wild rabbit's going to be a little gamier than domestic rabbit is, and considerably less fat than a domestic rabbit will be. So, but it also kind of depends on the condition, as far as whether or not the rabbit's going to taste any good. But hello, love. So let's see here. Mostly important when you're cooking things up like hot tubs or pool heaters. And since we would like to have a hot tub in the house at some point for my certain people with arthritic joints, yeah, I still haven't gotten to cook squirrel. That is on my list of...
No, thank you.
Sanford doesn't want to eat it, but I'm not going to cook it for him.
Only if I can make it in the style of Fallout.
And how do you prepare squirrel in the style of Fallout?
On a stick.
On a
very
stick
gross.
And very gross. Well, no.
I think it's that half-burnt, half-raw snake that Dave made the army.
Antelope in Wyoming tasting strong because they eat sagebrush makes sense. Really, whatever the critter has been eating is going to come through in the flavor of the meat. And that's why the acorn-fed hogs, I'm sure there's a name for them in France or Spain, are supposed to be so wonderful. Red squirrel are really little though, Mark. Gray squirrel are bigger, so I mean, I don't doubt you on the flavor, just the bang for your buck, as it were. Yes, koala, fallout is nuclear radiation. No, I think pine-fed squirrel is
Fallout as
is-
in the video game.
no. Yes, fallout is in the video game. I know, koala's being silly.
Video games.
And
Is she
koala
ever
is
silly?
not a gamer, so.
She
Oh,
just-
well, okay. I see what you're saying. No, she wasn't actually talking about your fallout. She's talking about Wyoming antelope. They have nuclear radiation from fallout. But are they mutant antelope?
Only if they have two heads.
Or 4 horns.
Mark, that's interesting. All the red squirrels I've ever seen were little bitty guys about the size of a, Oh, Mom, no, mast is actually a thing that oak trees do. Every 5 to 7 years, oak trees have what's called a mast year, where they bear very, very heavily. And the mast years are, you'll see a population explosion of, I was wrong, koala is a gamer. She says her Steam account is packed. In mast years, you'll see an explosion of the population of squirrels and deer. And it's not that acorns bear,
What's wrong with Fallout?
don't bear, it's not that acorns don't bear in off years, it's that they don't bear as heavily as they do in mast years. Adolescent radioactive black belt antelope.
What's wrong with Fallout?
Nothing's wrong with fallout.
No, there's no Fallout.
Joshua, is that even a word? I don't even know what that word that is. Ah, okay, fox squirrels make sense, Mark. Because the red squirrels I'm used to are Alaskan, so about the size of a chipmunk. Let's see here. I know I am trying to actually pick topics and stick to topics. So, speed goats. Oh, yes, that's what antelope would be. Speed goats. They're pretty speed goats, though. So I was going to talk about fairy dust, and I am guessing that when I said fairy dust, most of you automatically thought that I was talking about pixies and maybe the noir series, or at the very least some kind of fantasy thing. And no, what I was actually talking about was, figure out this, I was actually talking about fairy dust, as in cosmetic ingredients. So this is a lotion that I made last week in the lab, and it contains fairy dust. So the fairy dust in this is a botanical lotion, and it's turned out really nicely, and I like it and I'm very happy with it, but there's some things in it that are fairy dust.
Why didn't no one tell me Russia attacked the Ukraine already?
Dude, Russia attacked the Ukraine like 2 days ago.
No one told me!
No, there's no glitter in this one, Joshua. Although, we were having a conversation in some place on the web about disappearing glitter or embedding glitter in epoxy. And speaking of house hunting and having houses that need renovation, we were looking at one today that has some of the floors down to the subflooring. We could do glitter embedded in epoxy.
No. No, glittery grout.
No.
Uh,
I do not want craft herpes.
So, this is a, there we go. This is just a very basic little lotion. And you can see that it's going to flow there, and it works in nicely. You can see it's already worked into the skin, and it has a really nice smell. It smells like violets and vanilla. I scented it with a violet fragrance oil, and it also contains some vanillin, which can have a little bit of a warming effect on the skin, so I kept the proportion down. And the interesting thing about this is that when I was formulating it, I had just gotten into the lab borage oil. So borage is an herb, and you might think of it as the teddy bear of the herb garden because it's got violet, as in little purple flowers. It depends on how you feel about the odor of violets, Joshua. When I started working on this, I had just gotten borage oil into the lab, and borage oil is very high in gamma-linoleic acid. I really can speak chemist. So gamma-linoleic acid is supposed to be really good for the skin, and I wanted to experiment with that, which is what I based the lotion design around. And I also used chamomile butter in this because what I wanted to do was a weed theme. So I have borage, I have chamomile, I have, and here's my fairy dust, I have nettle, comfrey, and calendula. So the nettle is an extract, and what it is a plant extract into glycerin, and that's what I also have for the comfrey and the calendula. They're all plants that have been extracted into glycerin. So you, in theory, have some of the active ingredients. For comfrey, the active ingredient for comfrey would be allantoin. And if I really wanted to have the properties of the allantoin in this lotion, I would have put some purified allantoin in the lotion. Putting the comfrey extract in at the rate that I put it in, which is 0.1%, and that's the same for the nettle, the comfrey, and the calendula. They're all in there at 0.1%, which makes them fairy dust. They're really cool because I can talk about the fact that I have this lotion and it's packed full of these great botanical herbs and weeds. And the name I gave this little lotion, this is Where the Weeds, which is a bit of a pun because in Victorian era wearing weeds was being in mourning and was usually dead black, and this is a lovely white lotion. So
a whole 8 people watching you right now.
yeah, it's a pretty good audience for the evening. My son's telling me I have 8 of you watching me.
Also, you're not drinking enough of your wine.
But the lotion works really, really well. I mean, I just put a little tiny bit on my hands and it feels great. And the thing is, though, that I can have all of these things, and on my marketing claims I can say that we've got nettle for its astringency, which is good for toning up the skin, and we've got, and I am looking at notes while I'm doing this, we've got comfrey, which is anti-irritating and anti-inflammatory, and I am not drinking wine with a straw, Johan. And I have calendula, which is also an anti-inflammatory, and also a calendula is also a anti-acne thing, but not at this ratio. So yeah, I don't think I want to work with those, JP. My chemistry right now is the kinder, gentler chemistry. As I'm describing, sitting here and describing the scent of violets and vanilla, and how this is this nice sweet thing, and I have soft velvety skin feel from this lotion. It's much better than much better than boiling acids like I used to. But the thing is that fairy dust is pretty common in most of your cosmetics. And if you learn how to read labels, you'll figure out what is in there as fairy dust. And honestly, most of the time, it's what features largest on the front side of the label, not the ingredient list itself. Because there's tiny bits in there so that they can use them as a marketing story. Because this is the fun thing for me, as I've been a storyteller for a long time. And I'm a creative writer, and someday I hope to be mildly supported by my writing income. But right now, I'm also a creative chemist in that I'm getting to storytell with my creations. So, oil on your skin would be a much different feeling than a properly formulated lotion. I don't know if you've ever used a moisturizer, but it shouldn't feel like oil. And if it does, there's something wrong with the formula. A lot of what I do when I'm creating a formula like this, now this one I didn't do this with because with a development formula like this, and okay, sunscreens are oily, but a moisturizer should be a little bit different, more of a cold thing.
I have no way to know.
What?
Do we have a breaker blow or power on anything?
I'll check the breaker box.
Go ahead, Street.
Sorry, I'm being distracted by questions and family
I
stuff.
would have been out. My UPS gives off an alarm every time power goes out. Even for a second.
I have no computer or monitor.
Okay, I'm being thoroughly distracted now. I may have to go troubleshoot here in a minute if my son can't fix it.
Start with the switch.
What? Oh, wall switch.
The wall switch.
Okay.
The wall switch was off.
Problem is solved. The wiring even here in the apartment is not necessarily set
The
up
next place has
rationally.
wiring that switches like that. No. It was nice for my server until the cat
See,
went
that's
had
the
to
thing
turn it
about
off.
buying a house, is if there's a problem, you can fix it yourself.
When the cat turns off my servers in the middle of the night, it is
Well,
not
that's
fun.
good, JP, because there are certain things that I would not want to work with, and
Oof.
Foof is one of those. The delightful series that Derek Lowe did on things I won't work with, I found that and started reading it while I was still in school, and at the time I didn't realize I was going to be doing quite so much chemistry. Waterproof as a frog's butt is my favorite thing now. See, that's the thing with me in the lab is that I often will test neat materials on my skin, and that leads to some interesting sensations occasionally. But it's how I tell how something's going to feel in the end product, is by feeling it on me, because I can predict what an oil is going to act like, but it's still a little. Enjoy Skyrim, Koala. I've never played Skyrim myself, but Sanford plays it and I watch him and it's fun.
I have spent my money on
So
haircut.
my fairy dust is all neatly packaged into a nice little lotion,
Actual barbershop.
and
$4
it's one of those things that I like storytelling. Sometimes as a scientist it feels a little disingenuous, because yes, I'm putting the ingredients in there and I'm not lying, but I'm not telling the truth as much as I should be. So that is that's a moral dilemma, but mostly I can live with it. And the other thing too is that I occasionally get formulations from clients that have things in them in impossibly low amounts that makes me feel that's a little squeaky to be able to say that, oh, this is in here, but it's in there at 0.0001%, which is, we've actually had discussions about whether or not that can be weighed accurately in the lab, or for that matter in production, where they don't tend to use analytical balances out there. That's because you're spilling it on the boot, Stephen, and not applying it evenly. When you spill, you have to lean down and rub it all around and get it in there neatly. I'm kidding. I realize you can't do that when you're spilling something. Well, folks, I really appreciate you putting up with the technical difficulties. And maybe next week will be the week that we don't have any technical difficulties.
You know, you could stream for longer than an hour. You're having a
I
very good
could
conversation.
stream for longer than an hour. I don't know if I'm having a very good conversation. I'm enjoying talking, but I tend to bounce around topics like a ferret with a pixie stick.
There's nothing wrong with that.
My son seems to think I'm entertaining. I'm kind of reassured. I'm rather proud of myself. Also, I think dinner just arrived at the door. The boy ordered pizza. So... So charcoal is interesting, Mark, because charcoal is an absorption material. So the absorption may actually cancel out the lavender oil. And so that might be why you're not picking it up as much, because the charcoal is probably absorbing the volatiles that would make it more scented. And besides which, do you really want it to be highly scented?
If you want a mushroom?
Awesome, thank
Do
you.
you want a piece?
Not right now, but thank
I'm just
you.
going to give this half it.
Firefighting foams, paint, epoxies, and electronics. Well, technically some of the stuff I do is paint as well, JP. Oh, the conversation that I had with the accountant that eventually evolved into talking about how OCD is good for both of us, started out with him asking me, he got tasked about a year ago before I even started, with creating a database to track our raw materials. So at this point I've gotten into it because technically it's my database because I'm the chemist, and one of the things that we're doing is updating and making sure that all the names are correct. So he came to me with a short list of things that he wanted me to check today, and one of them was green chromium oxide. And green chromium oxide is a pigment. It is meant for imparting color, as you might guess from the name, and it is commonly used in eyeshadows. Now, we don't formulate color cosmetics like that any longer. I'd like to, but I'd like to formulate color cosmetics, but that's going to be we'll see whether that works out or not. The longer I'm there at this company, the more I'll get to have some free reign to do some of my own projects. But trying to explain color and the naming protocols for color to my poor accountant was funny today. The boy actually doesn't really have an accent. Both he and his sister have a very slight speech impediment that comes out like a British accent. So add on top of that the fact that he has been coughing and having a sore throat and is currently sounds a little deeper in the voice than his normal, so that's probably not helping the matter any. And he has completely left the room because the pizza has arrived and he is gone. When they were little, they were not allowed to eat in their rooms. Well, he's big enough now that I trust him to eat in his room. And it's funny because he's actually gotten to the point where he's much more willing to leave his bedroom door open so that we can like walk by and see in his bedroom. It used to be that was a big no, and his door had to be closed at all times and we were not allowed to see. But he is actually very good about keeping it clean, and he's pretty organized for a 16-year-old boy. So yes, it was definitely a pizza nosedive, especially because he was begging me for it. It was ordered for him. I'm not terribly starving. But I will take off here in a minute or two and go eat some pizza. My husband, I know, had lunch with friends, so I have no idea if he's going to be hungry or not. But I would also like to talk to him about his day because I'm sure it was interesting. Stephen, he has to have one of his doors open. His bedroom actually has 2 doors because the cat's litter box is in his bathroom. This apartment is set up in what's called a roommate configuration, so both bathrooms can be completely accessed from the bedrooms, which is actually kind of nice. And yes, indeed. And it has to be store-bought pizza, Ian. It can't just be like Mama made it pizza. That's not as good, because I did offer to make him pizza. Oh well, it smells good though. So we have that's one of the nice things about being here in the city, is we literally have a pizza place across the street. When we order pizzas from them and we have it delivered, the guy walks. I have been trying to persuade the child to walk over and get it, but he says there's no delivery fee, so he's going to do it this way because, well, kids. But so if this is a good time, I think I'm seeing more people participating at this time, so I think we're going to keep this time 6 p.m. Central. And if this setup works a little bit better for y'all, I will do this again, and hopefully if I leave everything more or less set up, then I won't have the technical difficulties next week. Fingers crossed. And here's to doing it better next time, because that's all we need to do, right? Is get a little bit better every day. So folks, I'll see you all next week. Thank you for coming and listening to me ramble. Hopefully there won't be too much excitement. Tally ho indeed.